everybody, and welcome to tonight's Wednesday Night Recharge. I just want to give you a little bit of encouragement as you continue to serve the Lord, continue to believe Him for miracles, signs, and wonders. And so we're going to be in 1 Corinthians chapter number 4, verse 1. And it says, "Let a man account of us as the ministers of Christ and stewards of the mystery of God." And so what I want to speak to you tonight is about this concept when you're serving faithfully and trying to obediently do what God has asked you to do. You have to understand that the devil hates it. And so he's going to do everything that he can do to try to stop you. And so he'll attack you in your mind with allegations such as, why are you doing this? Nobody appreciates this anyway. Here you are working and striving and sweating and slugging it out while other people are having such a good time. And if no one else cares, then why should you care? Come on, you've done enough. And this is what the enemy is trying to do in your mind. And so if you're not really committed to staying in a place and doing what God has asked you to do, then those allegations from the devil may pull you off the bench where God has called you to serve. And so this makes me think about 1 Corinthians 4:1 again, where Paul says, "Let a man account of us as the ministers of Christ and the stewards of the mysteries of God." And so the word ministers in this verse really refers to slaves or servants who were placed into the bottom of galleys of huge ships, and a huge oar was placed in the hands of these slaves, and they began to roll and roll and roll, and literally becoming the engine that moved those ships through the sea. And so the thing I want you to understand tonight is that if you had been allowed to peek into the bottom of the galley of those huge ships during the New Testament time, you'd have seen these prisoners that were chained to a post near their respective benches, and there was good reason for this heavy chain. And the thing that you have to understand, because their work was so difficult and their destiny was seated in the bottom of that ship, that these men's minds would just wander. They would wander to more beautiful and restful places where palm trees overlooked sandy shores and tall pines swayed in the refreshing of the mountain breezes. And so had the under-rowers not been chained to their post, then they would have attempted to escape. That's what I want you to understand. Had they not been chained to where they were, they would have attempted to escape from their bench and find a more restful lifestyle somewhere else. And so you have to understand that these chains kept the men where they belong, right in the bottom of the boat, tied to their post with an oar in hand, compelled to effectively do their job. Well, Pastor Lawrence, why are you talking about men in the bottom of a ship? Why are you talking about prisoners in the bottom of a ship with an oar? What does that have to do with me? You must know that as you seek to do God's will in your life, you're going to have to take on all kinds of assaults and challenges that will inevitably accompany obedience. And so let me warn you, there's going to be time where your flesh tries to find a way to jump ship. That's what I'm talking about. I don't want you to jump off the ship. There's going to be times in your life where your flesh tries to jump off the ship and get you from underneath the pressure of obeying God. And so your flesh would love to be led somewhere else where faith isn't required and the crucifixion of the flesh doesn't seem so necessary. And so it's easy to start obeying God. That's easy. Starting a project is fun and exciting, and that's always the easiest part. But how many of you know the difficult part is sticking with that project and seeing it through all the way to the end? The real test comes when the excitement is gone and the reality of the hard work and the commitment begins to set in, and it just dawns on you. And that's always the golden moment when the flesh is tempted to forget what you ever heard from God and start looking for a way out. And so if you're not really committed to go all the way in fulfilling your God-assigned task, then you're not going to do it. So you must absolutely be committed to what God has called you to do, chaining yourself to your decision to obey so that you cannot flee in the hard times. And so if God has called you, then don't jump off the ship. He needs you at the bottom of the boat in order to keep the body of Christ moving toward maturity. The body of Christ has to continue moving forward towards maturity, and you are an important part of that. I want you to hear me tell you that you are an important part of that. And so I'm sure there's times where the people that were the under rowers said, I'm tired of rowing. Get me off this boat. And they probably had to be reminded that you are the engines of the ship. If you get off the boat, then the boat will stop moving. And so you are too vital to the ship to leave now, because the ship can't go on without you. So there are probably times when these men at the bottom of the ship said things like, no one appreciates us. Nobody says thank you for what we do. We work and 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 we work, and we're treated just like slaves. No one appreciates us. I just wish somebody would occasionally say thank you. I just wish somebody would occasionally show some appreciation for what we're doing. But no. And I get it. We all want to be appreciated. I like to be thanked when I work hard, just as we all do. This is natural. It's a normal desire. But if we'd all just treat each other with the good manners of in the body of Christ, guess what? It would solve a world of problems and a remedy of hurt feelings. It would stop all of the hurt feelings that are out there, because people are people, and sometimes they forget to say thank you. It's absolutely true. People should be more thoughtful. They should be more appreciative, but sometimes people just forget. But the bottom line is this. Ultimately, it doesn't matter whether or not those around us ever show us appreciation for what we do. So it doesn't matter if they never say thank you, if they never appreciate you, if they never say you're amazing because you did this, and I really appreciate it, and I really thank you, and all of that. If they never do that, if they never do it, guess what? If the boat is gonna move, we gotta row the boat. Regardless, if they never show us any appreciation, if they never say thank you, if the boat is gonna move, we gotta row the boat. So just like these under rowers, if you stop rowing, if you stop doing your job, it could possibly jeopardize the destiny that God has called you to fulfill. And so if the boat is going to move, you must row. Whether or not you have ever heard the words thank you from anyone. And this is a hard reality. This is a tough message tonight. It's a hard reality of life for all of us who are servants of God. Because yes, it would be nice to hear thank you from time to time, but the lack of appreciation must not affect our determination to row our boat. I'm going to say that again. The lack of appreciation must not affect our determination to row our boat and do what God has called us to do. So when you said yes to the will of God and you surrendered to Him, agreeing to pick up the oar that He's placed before you, for you, that oar could be a ministry that God has given you, or a certain position in serving in your local church, or a business, okay? Whatever your oar is, perhaps God has instructed you to give money regularly to a ministry, or whatever responsibility that God has set before you, it's time for you to grab a hold of that oar. If you're a greeter, if you're a worshiper, if you work with the children, if you help do outreach, if you help do evangelism, if you just open the doors for people before they come into the church, whatever it is that you do, it's time for you to grab a hold of that oar. Because like the under rowers who rowed in order to move those big ships, you must begin the lifelong occupation of rowing to advance the cause that God has put in your heart. And so from now on, your lifelong slogan needs to be this. This has to be the slogan for believers. Row, row, row your boat. Everybody remembers that. Row, row, row your boat. Come on, say that. Row, row, row your boat. That's what you're going to have to do in this life, is row, row, row your boat. And so as you're rowing, I want you to consider these questions. When do you most easily get discouraged? Do you get does discouragement strike when you're physically weary and tired? Have you found that if you stay in prayer, you stay stronger and more encouraged? When you're slugging it out and pushing forward and with every ounce of your might, what helps more than anything else to keep pushing ahead? I want you to think about that. And does anyone ever acknowledge that you're willing to do something that no one else is willing to motivate you to do? That you do things that no one else is willing to do and nobody motivates you? Do you get satisfaction when you know you're being obedient to God, even if no one else is willing to stick in there with you and be obedient with you? Tonight's message is simple. Row, row, row your boat for the King. Not gently down the stream. Row, row, row your boat for the King, so we can advance the gospel. Thank you for joining us tonight. We'll see you next week. God bless you.